Thank you, Karen, for that introduction and for your leadership along with Jean and Jill of the Priorities and Solutions Project. Today I'm going to give a short version of remarks that I made in Washington that focus on the value that I think what we bring is an integrated research system with different players and partners. And I'll talk from an ERS perspective of what I see as the strengths of that system, and then conclude with some thoughts about how we go forward in a way that cuts across the specific priorities. So let me start with looking at the value of an integrated research ecosystem. And as I said, this is from an ERS perspective, but I hope to tie in the role of different partners such as NIFA and academic institutions and the users of our information. So I think the key message here is that partnerships matter. We each play important roles, but that it's only through working together that our profession can have and continue to have the impact that we make on policy decisions, both public and private. And from the ERS perspective, we really do need to work with the academic community, with other USDA and federal agencies in order to meet our mission to inform decisions. This chart talks about different kinds of partnerships. I'll provide sort of an overarching view. I think one way that we differ from NIFA is that we're often more issue and question driven. NIFA is a little more on the basic research, broader themes, whereas if you come to ERS, we can pull together a group, look at a question, bring people together throughout, and come to something with a very focused response. And in ways that we do this are varied. I'll just point out what I think are three important dimensions. One is that we, as I just talked about, we often collaborate on a specific question or research theme. And some recent examples include research to improve USDA's child nutrition program through investments in behavioral economics, where we've partnered with Cornell and other academic institutions, but also in building data resources to look more broadly across the population at these issues. We've also done a lot of important work, I think, to build research capacity in an emerging area. If I think back over a decade ago, ERS provided leadership in the area of invasive species, and we had a budget initiative, we funded extramural research, and if I look around the profession, a lot of the people who had those grants or were graduate students working on those are publishing in that area, and I know from talking to my colleagues at USDA's Animal Plant Health Inspection Service that they're hiring people that they met through the PRISM program to do specific analysis for them as part of their mission. So I think we can do that. We've done that also in the nutrition area, and that's a way I think we can continue to serve the profession. I also think we have a role to frame research on a specific topic, that we, by our mission of being objective, by our position in DC, we can really be a good convener of the different parts of the community that you need to do good research. The academic part, our research staff, the public sector in terms of the agencies making decisions, but also the broad policy influencer and user community, people in the NGOs or in the program agencies or on congressional staff that are going to be the targets of what we find. So I think we're in a great position to do that. And recent examples include workshops we held last fall on soil health and the measurement of food security, and one that I went to this, I guess, winter, spring, on the economics of animal health management. And I think that really is setting the stage for future research needs in this area that's much more grounded in reality. So that, I think, is a role we play. We also play an important role of providing data as a public good to the profession. As applied economists, we have a lot of work in developing frameworks, but data is the lifeblood of doing real policy analysis, and having high quality data on the food and ag system is necessary. Here's some examples of data resources we provide. I think in this way we're similar to the role of NAS and other federal statistical agencies like Commerce or Commerce's Census Bureau, in that we provide sort of gold standard benchmark data. We make that available for research. But at ERS, I think we go beyond that. We're both a producer and user of data, and we've provided data around like retail standard data, just proprietary data, or administrative data, including administrative data linked to surveys. And we use that, but we're also working to provide it to the broader research community. And here it's a two-way street. We get a lot out of people, academics, using our data. It gives us more leverage. You produce interesting papers, but then also we learn a lot and improve the quality through the, I don't say mistakes, but the weaknesses of the data that have an opportunity for improvement. Our budget illustrates some of these linkages. This is our budget excluding rent, but including money we get from other agencies. And you see here, people are really critical, the bottom purple. I'll come back to that in a minute. But then next is data. We spend about 13 to 15% of our budget purchasing data from other agencies or commissioning surveys. The next is cooperative research agreements and grants, which is $7 to $10 million annually in recent years. So I think that also is financially a significant contribution to this research ecosystem. Just turn to a couple other areas before I look at some topics. One is that I think merits discussion, and it's interesting that this might come out in the end of the solutions project, but I think within our profession we have a shared mission to inform industry, policymakers, and the public. And that, I think, is easier in the digital age to combine these different sources of information. And we invest a lot in non-technical communication at ERS, and you see some of our outlets here. But the broader community does as well with different funding sources. Examples of e-extension, university-based communication, as well as work by the profession. And then in terms of also this ecosystem, as I said earlier, people are at the center of this. ERS, I would gather, is in most years the single largest new employer of graduates of PhD programs. In the last few years, we've been hiring 10 to 15 new PhDs every year. It's great for us. So we need people, we need high quality scholars, and it's interesting that the two polar opposites are our challenges in traditional areas around the farm economy, but then we also have a need for people with some new statistical and computer science skills to manage data. So, and we're also a big hire of interns, and I think that's, for us, a lot of fun. And the challenge for all of us, too, is having a diverse workforce that can provide the kind of ideas and talent we need for the topics we cover. Let me turn quickly to a few thoughts on areas or directions for investment. In Washington, D.C., I talked a bit about an article that ERS commissioned in 1976, at the 200th anniversary of our country. We looked back and we looked forward at what happened and what might happen in the future 200 years. And we did this in what was then our agency's magazine, Ag Outlook. And this cover, I think, summarizes a lot the looking forward part, which was written by Don Parlberg, who was then the Assistant Secretary for Economics. And he talked about ag becoming more like the rest of the economy. Would it become more industrialized, less family-run? Here you see, a modern food system with multi-story production facilities, something that even today still looks futuristic. But will we get this, greater integration and continued role of technology? I'm happy to share this if people are interested. I think it's very thought-provoking in terms of things that we need to think about. But I think it foreshadows the direction I think is important, and a great opportunity for our profession is that the issues have broadened. Today we see a real system and tremendous linkages between consumer demand for food, the retailing, processing sector, and down to the farm. We see global markets intertwined in this, and policies, not just the Farm Bill, it's information policies, it's tax policies, technology policies that go beyond ag research. And I think our profession is really well positioned to work on these areas and then write in a way that provides information to make decisions. This slide just shows the breadth of people who need information from ag and applied economists. One, on the left, you have a Dutch publication about a new food policy. On the far right, you have Walmart and their sustainability index. And in the middle, you have very different perspectives on policy, more traditional and a more sort of food policy driven. And all these groups are hungry for information that doesn't just focus on one part of our system, but looks more broadly. And my last slide is that beyond just looking at the topics, I think it's really critical that our profession calls for investments in new approaches. And here's an example of systems thinking. This comes from a National Academy study published last year that had 2 ag economists on the panel. And it really talks about how you can give wrong advice by not taking into account the linkages, and gives a framework for building more systems thinking, and then invest in more data resources. So I think we've got a great opportunity that people really want the kind of work we do, and I hope we are ambitious, we think big, and look broadly. Thank you very much.